Hey everyone, and welcome back to Cyber Mornings Daily. Ready for another deep dive?
Always. We've got some pretty wild stories today.
Seriously wild. Like, how sneaky can these attackers get? We're about to find out.
Definitely. Makes you think no matter how tech savvy you are, there's always something new.
Right. Okay, so first step. Imagine you're a developer. You live and breathe code.
Terminal windows are your best friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you need a specific tool, so you head over to Homebrew, right?
Of course. Homebrew, the go-to for pretty much every developer. Like an app store, but for macOS and Linux.
Totally. Install software quickly, all that good stuff.
Yeah, using command line tools, efficient, powerful.
So you're on Google, searching for this tool, and what pops up? A sponsored ad.
A Homebrew link looks totally legit, even has the right URL.
And you click it, thinking, okay, this is it.
But here's the catch. It's not the real deal. It's a fake site.
Wait, what? How is that even possible?
It's all about the details, or rather, a very sneaky detail. The site's hosted at brewe.sh. See it?
Brew. Oh, with an extra E.
Exactly. It's such a small difference, most people wouldn't even notice it.
Wow. That's playing dirty. And especially since this is targeting, like, developers, right?
Developers, other tech-savvy users, the ones who should know better.
It's almost ironic you think those guys would be super vigilant.
You'd think so, but that's what makes this attack so effective. They're counting on that overconfidence.
So what happens if someone actually falls for this and downloads something?
They end up with a nasty surprise. The Amos infostealer malware.
Amos. What does that do?
It's bad news, steals everything. Login credentials, browsing history, even crypto wallets.
Yikes. Talk about a nightmare scenario.
It is. And it's not just about this one attack. This points to a larger trend we've been seeing.
Oh, yeah.
Attackers are increasingly going after macOS and Linux users. They're realizing these systems aren't as impenetrable as people think.
Right, because for so long there's been this myth that they're inherently more secure than Windows.
Exactly. And while they do have robust security features, they're not invincible.
Okay, this is making me a bit paranoid now. Have you ever almost fallen for one of these lookalike websites?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you're rushing, Easy to miss those tiny details.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I guess it's a reminder to slow down and actually, double-check everything.
Always good advice. And speaking of trusting familiar things, our next story is about a vulnerability in a piece of software we probably all use.
Oh, which one?
7-zip.
7-zip. Seriously, I use that all the time. What's going on with it?
Well, researchers found a pretty serious flaw. Could allow attackers to bypass Windows security warnings.
You mean like when you download a file and it gives you that warning?
Exactly. It's called Mark of the Web, or MotW for short. Flags files downloaded from the internet as potentially unsafe.
Right. So it's like an extra layer of protection. So how does this vulnerability mess with that?
Basically, attackers can create archives that disable that warning, so you could download a ZIP file, open it with 7-zip, and
No warning.
nothing. You'd have no idea you might be opening something malicious.
Oh, wow. That's bad. So is there a fix?
Yes, thankfully. The 7-zip developers release an update. The problem is...
It doesn't auto-update.
Right. Users have to download the new version manually.
Okay, so a little bit of a pain, but definitely worth it in this case.
For sure. And it's interesting how this connects back to our first story,
How so?
Both cases, attackers are taking advantage of our trust in familiar software. We let our guard down because we're used to these things.
It's true. Makes you think twice.
Uh-huh.
But hey, speaking of trust, our last story today is about a massive data breach.
Yeah, this one's a big one. Affects millions of students and teachers.
No way. What happened?
It involves PowerSchool, a company that provides software solutions for K-12 schools.
Oh, I've heard of them. So their system got compromised.
Yeah, it looks like attackers got in using stolen credentials, and once they were inside, they used a tool.
Wait, a tool designed for system maintenance?
That's right. They used it to download tons of data from different school districts.
And this wasn't just basic contact info, right? We're talking sensitive stuff.
Absolutely. Social security numbers, medical records, even student grades. Really bad news.
That's awful. Has PowerSchool said anything about this?
They've been pretty quiet about the details. Not exactly transparent, which is frustrating.
It's their responsibility to be upfront about it so people can protect themselves.
Exactly. But the attackers actually gave us some insight into the scale of this breach.
Really?
How they made extortion demands, claim to have stolen data from over 6,500 school districts.
Well, 6,500. That's a huge number.
It is. That translates to about 62 million students and 9.5 million teachers potentially affected.
Wow. Just wow. This just goes to show that no organization is immune to cyber attacks.
You got it. And this story kind of brings us full circle.
In what way?
All three of these stories highlight how attackers are exploiting trust. Whether it's a fake website, outdated software, or a compromised system, they're constantly finding ways to take advantage of the vulnerabilities that exist in our digital world.
So what can we do to protect ourselves? It feels kind of overwhelming to hear about all these threats.
It's a great question, and one we'll answer right after this. Just kidding. No breaks today. We're diving straight in.
That's right. We're going to talk about solutions and strategies to stay safe in this crazy cyber landscape. Stick with us.
So much to unpack, right? I bet you're thinking, okay, scary stories, but what can I actually do?
That's exactly where my mind went. Like, how do we actually protect ourselves? It's a constant game of defense.
It really is. But that's where the idea of layered security comes in. Think of it like a castle with multiple walls and defenses, each layer adding another level of protection. Makes it much harder for those attackers to reach their target.
Okay, I like that analogy. Makes it easier to visualize. So what are some of these layers in the digital world?
Well, the foundation is always strong passwords, unique for every account.
Right, the basics. But we hear that all the time. What else?
Wherever you can, enable multi-factor authentication. That way, even if someone gets your password, they still can't get in.
Makes sense, like a double lock on the door.
Exactly. Then you've got antivirus software, still essential. Think of it as your guards, patrolling the system, looking for known threats.
Okay, antivirus, got it.
And a good firewall is crucial too. That's your castle wall, controlling what comes in and out of your network.
And of course, keeping software up to date, like we were talking about with the 7-zip vulnerability.
Bingo! Those updates often include patches for those newly discovered security flaws.
So strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, antivirus, firewall, updates, anything else.
All super important. But beyond the technical stuff, awareness is key. Staying informed about the latest threats. That's why we do this show, right?
You got it. Shameless plug for Cyber Mornings Daily. But seriously, being in the know is huge. Knowing what to look for can make all the difference. Like those sneaky URL tricks.
Exactly. You know your enemy's tactics, so you can avoid falling into those traps. But beyond that, let's talk about the human element.
Because, let's face it, we all make mistakes. Click on things we shouldn't. Get tricked sometimes.
It happens. The human element can be the weakest link, but we can strengthen it. Starts with being skeptical. Don't blindly trust anything you see online.
Okay, so double-check URLs, hover over links before clicking, be careful with emails.
All of that. Be cautious. Think critically. Don't let your guard down, even if it seems familiar.
Right, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is.
Exactly. And if you're ever unsure, better to be safe than sorry. Don't be afraid to ask for help or a second opinion.
That's a good point. It's okay to not know everything. There are resources out there, people who can help. And remember, everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them and improve your security.
Well said. Cybersecurity isn't a one-time thing, it's a journey.
An ongoing process.
Exactly. Continuously adapting and evolving your defenses as the threat landscape changes.
It sounds like we're all kind of like digital warriors, constantly battling these unseen forces.
In a way, yeah. But we're not alone in this fight. There's a whole community out there. Researchers, experts, everyday users, all working together, sharing knowledge, and building those defenses.
That's a good reminder. It feels less daunting that way. But going back to those 3 stories we talked about earlier, they were all pretty different.
True.
But is there a bigger takeaway, a common thread running through them?
I'd say so. I think what they all highlight is that attackers are getting smarter. They're more sophisticated in how they exploit our trust and the vulnerabilities that exist in our digital world.
So we can't be complacent.
Not at all. We need to be proactive, vigilant, and constantly adapting. But it's not all doom and gloom. With the right knowledge and tools, we can absolutely stay ahead of the game. We can protect ourselves in this digital age.
Okay, feeling a bit more empowered now.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, you've spent years studying these threats.
Guess what I do?
What keeps you up at night? What's the biggest concern on your radar right now?
Ooh, that's a tough one. The threat landscape is always changing, so it's hard to pinpoint just one thing. But if I had to choose, I'd say it's the increasing sophistication of artificial intelligence.
AI.
Yeah, and its potential for misuse in cyber attacks.
AI-powered attacks. Okay, now that sounds seriously scary. AI-powered attacks. Okay, now that sounds seriously scary.
It's definitely something to watch out for. As AI gets more powerful, attackers can use it to automate their attacks. Makes them even harder to detect.
So instead of like one hacker trying to break in, you could have an AI doing the work of 1,000.
Exactly. Think about it. AI writing super convincing phishing emails,
Oh, wow.
creating malware that can like adapt and evolve.
So it can avoid detection.
Exactly. Or even impersonate real people online. It's a whole new ballgame.
That is unsettling. But wait, can't AI also be used to, like, improve cybersecurity?
Of course. I mean, a lot of security companies are already using it to detect and respond to threats, like instantly.
Okay.
It can analyze huge amounts of data, find patterns that we might miss.
So it's like an AI arms race.
Yeah.
Both sides using it to their advantage.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. And that's why it's so important to stay informed, right?
Right.
We need to understand AI's potential, the good and the bad.
Okay, that's a lot to think about. But thanks for breaking it down. We've covered a lot today. Those sneaky URL tricks, data breaches, and now AI. It's clear cybersecurity is constantly changing.
It never stops.
And staying safe takes, like, effort.
Being vigilant.
Being aware. And being willing to adapt.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And remember, you don't have to figure this all out on your own. There are tons of resources, communities, experts out there to help.
Yeah, good point. Well, that about wraps it up for another episode of Cyber Mornings Daily. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
We'll be back tomorrow with more insights and analysis. Until then, stay safe out there and stay vigilant. See you next time.